everybody, my name is Hope and welcome back to my channel. I like musicals, they're a big part of my life, and today we're going to be doing a musical March Madness. So when this video goes up, as far as I'm aware, it will be the last day of March. How are we 3 months into this year already? It's disgusting. I thought we would do a little musical showdown. We'll be battling musicals against each other to the death. Well, not really, but you know what I mean. And we shall be seeing who will turn out victorious, who will be the absolute winner. Now, I did not make this March Madness table. This is from Broadway.com. So if you want to do it along with me, you can actually also have a look at it too. And please remember that this is all just my opinion. So if I shame your favorite musical of all time, I'm sorry. It's just my humble opinion. But before I get into this video, remember that you can like, comment, subscribe, do all of that fun stuff. But without further ado, I think we should get into it. Okay, so our first matchup is Follies versus La Cage aux Folles. Now, for me, this is quite an easy matchup because one of them is written by Stephen Sondheim and one of them is not. And if you've not been here for a while, fun fact about me, I love Stephen Sondheim. And if you have been around for a while, you'll already know I love Stephen Sondheim. I put 2 posts up for his birthday. Follow me on Instagram, by the way, if you don't already. And he's just my idol and my man. So I'm going to have to give it to Follies. And I'm not just giving it to Follies because it's written by Stephen Sondheim. I actually actively do like the show. And While I Am What I Am is a tune. The show of La Cage aux Folles doesn't overly appeal to me as a show. So Follies wins. Next we have Bye Bye Birdie and Grease. Now I'm going to be completely honest. I don't love either of these shows. I think they're very dated and they need some updating in their messages and their themes and just kind of all round really, because no message of a show should ever be change yourself and then they will like you. It's not a good message to send out to the children, you know? But with me saying that, I think I hate Grease less than I do Bye Bye Birdie. And I don't actually hate Bye Bye Birdie. That's a bit of an excessive word. But I also did Grease. So 13-year-old me is telling me I have to pick Grease. But just know, I'm not happy about it. Annie versus Annie Get Your Gun. Battle of the Annies. Annie the Orphan versus Annie Oakley. Now, I like both of these shows. I like Annie Get Your Gun. I think Anything You Can Do is such a fun thing. I think it's just a fun little show. However, again, this is my bias coming in. I did Annie. It was like my first lead in a show ever. I was 11 and I'll show you a picture of this criminal wig that I had to wear. But nonetheless, that was me at 11. I know. I look the exact same. That was over 10 years ago. Anyway, I did Annie and it still has a little special place in my heart. So I gotta go with Annie. Also, if you're wondering why for some of these I'm not giving a lengthy explanation, I have a lot to get through, so don't you worry. But are you agreeing with me thus far? Let's find out. Cabaret versus Showboat. Now, I will say there is objectively only one right answer here because Showboat is quite racist as a show, and racism is very much a theme, and I don't think I should be voting for any show where the main character is left by their husband for being mixed race, because no one should be promoting that, even though it's seen as a bad thing in the show. We're just gonna leave it behind and we're gonna live our cabaret lives, because also welcome and bienvenue, welcome, of course we are, of course we're gonna do that. It's great. Guys and Dolls versus Jersey Boys. Now, I actually seen both of these shows. I saw Jersey Boys on tour probably 2-3 years ago now, and I saw Guys and Dolls last year. Yes, last year. There's only been 3 months of this year. Last year. Saw it at the Bridge. It was great. I like both of these shows. I think Guys and Dolls is the better written show, which is surprising because it's 20 years older. Maybe it's not that much older. I actually really liked Jersey Boys when I saw it. A lot of people didn't like it. I quite like it as a show. I like a lot of the songs. The video of Barrett Wilbert Weed, Christina Alabado, Kate Rockwell, and is it Taylor Louderman? I think it's those 4 singing the little Jersey Boys medley. I love it. I think it's so good. What a gem of a video. But nonetheless, I do think that I like Guys and Dolls more. And I think that there's just more tunes. There's more tunes. Sit down, you're rocking the boat. Tune. And also, why did I think they do 3 encores when I saw it? It was great. I loved it. It was so fun. Moving on. Billy Elliot versus Oliver. Now, this is actually an easy matchup. One show I've saw and one show I've been in. I've been in Oliver. I was Strawberry seller slash old lady slash ensemble, I feel. I was selling those strawberries ripe for real, and I also had to drag my friend off stage when she died, and I also had to do a terrible Cockney accent in 2016. So that was like 5 years ago. Still kind of just as bad at accents, but at least I'm better. I'm better than I was then, because that was not Cockney. But I do have to say, Billy Elliot is one of my favourite shows of all time. It's in my top 10 ever. It's amazingly brilliant. I love it. It was actually, I think, the first show I saw after my brain had developed. I saw it when I was like 11. It's like 2014, so I was like year 7. And it was great, and it will forever be a place in my heart because that show is amazing and no one talks about it enough. Hair versus Pippin. Now, I don't really care for either of these shows, not because I think they're bad. I just don't really have much interest in them as shows because their content and like the way that the show works doesn't really appeal to me. I don't have any interest in the Age of Aquarius. I don't have any interest in the circus, and therefore I feel very indifferent about both of these shows. But if I had to pick one, I'm probably going with Pippin. I think there's a lot of redeeming qualities to Pippin. I think it's very smart. I think it is very unique as a show. And I'm not saying Hair isn't unique, because my God, it is. But I think there's a certain nuance to Pippin that Hair doesn't have, because Hair is just very much in your face about it. And therefore, I feel like I need to give no more reasoning that I'm going to pick Pippin. Guys, we're still going. We're still on the first side. This is a mega March Madness for real. But this one is genuinely probably the easiest one on this list that I've read so far. Miss Saigon versus South Pacific. We're picking Miss Saigon. I don't need to explain why. I feel update your show, South Pacific. Update it, please. Anything Goes versus Thoroughly Modern Millie, both Sutton Foster shows way back when. I have seen a couple of productions of Anything Goes, actually. I've seen a few. And I've never seen a production of Thoroughly Modern Millie. I do love the music in Thoroughly Modern Millie. I think it's a great time, but I also do love Anything Goes. I think this is the first matchup where I've been like, I think these are like solid opponents for each other because they are so similar and only differ slightly with each other. But I think if I had to pick, I'm picking Anything Goes. Sorry, Anything Goes. I'm picking that. Mainly because, honestly, I'm still low-key mad that I found out that Thoroughly Modern Millie is a contemporary show like last week. I was convinced it was written in 1967. Convinced. That's when the film came out, but it really burst my bubble. So yeah, Anything Goes wins. And also I just really like that show. It's so nice. There are still some dodgy bits about it, don't get me wrong, but I do love that show. Les Miserables versus The King and I. I'm picking Les Miserables because it's Les Miserables. I do like The King and I, but come on, it's Les Miserables. Fiddler versus Next to Normal. Arguably the weirdest matchup. Not similar to each other in any way, shape, or form. Honestly, this is just such a weird matchup. Like, what? These shows aren't similar in any way. Like, you can't even compare them. Not the same vocal style. Like, they're both about families, but in two very different ways. I actually wrote my essay on Next to Normal in first year, which was interesting. I do love that show, generally. But I kind of want to go with Fiddler. I think Fiddler probably has done a lot more for the theatrical community than Next to Normal has, even though I think it's a very admirable show. Also, one of my favourite musical theatre videos of all time is them doing the bottle dance with the hats and the bottles. I just think it's really cool. And I think that's all I have to say. This is such a weird matchup that I actually don't know how to compare them, but I think I'm going to go with Fiddler on the Roof. I think I'd actually prefer Next to Normal as a show, but just based on vibes, it's giving Fiddler winning, you know? Damn Yankees versus the Full Monty. There is no world where I vote for the Full Monty. I'm not pro people getting naked on stage. So, Damn Yankees wins. Phantom of the Opera versus Oklahoma. I like both of these shows. I have only seen Phantom. I saw it on the West End a little while ago now, and I think that has to win. I do really like Oklahoma, don't get me wrong. Ali Stroker singing You Can't Say No is iconic in itself, but, you know, it's Phantom, you know? Come on. It's Phantom of the Opera. The Music Man versus A Little Night Music. One of them is written by Stephen Sondheim, and one of them is not. Also, I think one of them is significantly better than the other, and one of them didn't cause Sutton Foster and Hugh Jackman to get together. So, A Little Night Music wins. West Side Story versus Book of Mormon. Again, what a strange matchup this is. Not similar to each other in any way whatsoever. I have seen the Book of Mormon. I liked the Book of Mormon. It didn't strike me as controversial as it is now deemed, but it has been a very long time since I saw it, and I was under the age of 18 when I saw it, so it's been a very long time. I have not seen West Side Story. I was supposed to, but because of 2019, 2020 times, I did not end up seeing it. I also really don't like the West Side Story film, the original. I know, controversial me. I can't get past the tan. I can't get past it. I'm sorry. I'm sure the film is great, but I watched 10 minutes and went, I can't do this to myself. And I like the new film. I like Rachel Zegler as opposed to what everyone else says. But there is someone in that film that ruins it for me. And it's not Mike Feist, because Mike Feist is brilliant in that film. But yeah. So my heart is saying it's going to be controversial to say Book of Mormon, but I'm saying Book of Mormon. And the last on this side of the bracket, because let me tell you, this is a mega bracket. Mega bracket for realsies. Is A Chorus Line and My Fair Lady. Again, two shows which aren't similar at all. Not in any way, shape or form. And I'm purely just going to go based off of vibes. So I'm going to go with A Chorus Line. Because who's going to judge? I can't see you judging me. You probably are, but you can't. So there, have it. Okay, so I'm going to shorten this side of the bracket and get down to that final matchup. And then we're going to flip over to the other side. So we have Follies versus Grease. Follies is winning 100%. It's written by Stephen Sondheim. It doesn't have a terrible message at the end of it, and it's a brilliant show. Follies wins. Annie versus Cabaret. Now, I am not a Cabaret stan. Like, it's not a show I'm like ride or die about. But if I'm looking at the two shows objectively, I would say that Cabaret is better. I think maybe because it has a deeper message, it helps. But I will say, I think Cabaret wins this. Purely based on, I think it's a cleverer show and a more emotional show. And Annie, you're just there for a good time. And it's kind of been gimmicked over the years. But the original musical, Charles Strauss, I stay in solidarity with you. Guys and Dolls versus Billy Elliot. Billy Elliot for the win. I love Billy Elliot. It's in my top 10. We're not shaking it from that top 10, you know? Pippin versus Miss Saigon. Miss Saigon is winning. Miss Saigon is one of my favourite musicals of all time, which I actually forgot to mention. But I love Miss Saigon, so it just has to be done. It has to be done. Objectively has to be done. So Miss Saigon wins. Anything Goes versus Les Mis. Les Mis is winning. Sorry, Anything Goes. I do love you, Tap, but I do just love One Day More a bit more, and I'll say it. Fiddler versus Damn Yankees. How irrelevant, but Fiddler wins, I guess. Sure. Phantom versus A Little Night Music. Now, this is hard. Both shows similar. Both shows interesting. Doing a lot of things. And it's great. This is Sondheim versus Weber, which is controversial in my heart, you know? My heart wants to say A Little Night Music, but my brain wants to say Phantom. I think musically, A Little Night Music is better. I think Phantom is more interesting. And I also think it's more visually interesting, apart from that damn chandelier. Please fix that. It's so lame. This is a hard one, but I think I'm going to go with Phantom of the Opera. I'm sorry, Sondheim. I'm sorry. I know it was just your birthday. I'm sorry. But I'm going with Phantom of the Opera. And a Book of Mormon versus A Chorus Line. I guess Book of Mormon, I kind of like these shows probably about the same. So there's no real like definitive attachment. So I'll go with Book of Mormon. Sure, why not? Okay, quick fire for the rest of these. So Follies versus Cabaret. I like both shows, but I think Cabaret is better. So Cabaret. Billy Elliot versus Miss Saigon. This isn't fair. I will riot. I love both of those shows deeply, but I'm giving it to Miss Saigon because I actually like that show. Is like my second favorite show of all time, and Billy Elliot is like my fourth. So criminal behavior. It's criminal. I'm sorry, it is. Les Mis versus Fiddler. I'm giving it to Les Mis. Phantom versus Mormon. I'm giving it to Phantom. Cabaret versus Miss Saigon. I'm giving it to Miss Saigon. And Les Mis versus Phantom. I'm giving it to Les Mis. Leaving the final matchup to be Miss Saigon versus Les Mis. And I think I'm giving it to Miss Saigon. So Miss Saigon is in the final and is side one. Okay, I'm going to try and do this second side quicker because I felt I've already been chatting for 22 minutes and I have many a show to get through. Now, this first matchup, not fair. Into the Woods versus Wicked. That's not fair. Both great shows. It's not fair to knock one of them out in the first round. But if I had to, I'm going to be knocking out Wicked because it's Stephen Sondheim. And Into the Woods is one of my favourite shows of all time. So, Into the Woods wins. But Wicked, you get that honourable mention. If there was a wild card spot, I would give it to you because it's not fair. Camelot versus Spamalot. Don't love either of these shows. shows. One is extremely dated and one is a slapstick comedy, which is not my kind of comedy. So I'll give it to Spamalot because Divas Lament is kind of iconic, you know? Dreamgirls versus Chicago. I love Chicago, don't get me wrong, but I think I'm giving it to Dreamgirls. The movie of Chicago will never not be iconic, but the Fossification of that show, and I know it's choreographed by Fosse, I know that. I think the show is too simplistic now. I think it needs to up the ante a little bit. So I'm giving it to Dreamgirls. 9 versus Falsettos. Falsettos is winning. I'm sorry. I think 9 is kind of dull. I think it has its redeeming qualities, but Falsettos, man, one of my favourite shows of all time. Love that show. So it wins. Ragtime versus The Sound of Music. Now, I really do like Ragtime, but I don't know the show like the back of my hand. The Sound of Music, on the other hand, I do in fact know that show like the back of my hand. I was Baroness Schrader once upon a time. Here's a picture. Have all the pictures of me doing theatre is good. Some real looks in this show from me. I was Baroness Schrader. I don't know if I already said that. But I think I'm giving it to The Sound of Music. But Ragtime, you're great. Joshua Henry in Ragtime, Audra McDonald in Ragtime, both amazing. Carousel versus Company. Now, I like Carousel. Its convoluted and dated message is something to be talked about, yes. Waiting for that, like, reimagined revival of Carousel. But Company, do I need to say anything? I think the answer is no. Company wins. Once on This Island versus Man of La Mancha. I'm giving it to Once on This Island purely because I only know one song from Man of La Mancha, and therefore I don't think it'd be fair. So I'm just going to give it to Once on This Island. Cats versus The Lion King. Probably guess why these are matched up together, because they're both about cats of different sizes. And I think we can tell which one I'm going to pick to win. Even though I'm not the biggest Lion King fan, I'm certainly much more of a Lion King fan than I am of those damn cats. Rent versus Spring Awakening. Probably the best matchup for like vibes on here. And I think I'm giving it to Rent. I do like Spring Awakening, don't get me wrong. I'd love to be in Spring Awakening. And it's nothing to do with the show as a whole. I just think that Rent is more culturally famed. I think that the songs are probably more well regarded. And it's Jonathan Larson. And I think Jonathan Larson deserves some recognition in this March Madness. So have it. Sweet Charity versus Little Shop of Horrors. Little Shop of Horrors is winning this branch. I love Little Shop of Horrors. I think it's so fun as a show. I'd love to be Audrey too. I'd love to be a plant. Like a man-eating plant. Yes, please. Would love that. And it's just kind of iconic, you know? Iconic time. So yeah, it wins. Sunday in the Park versus In the Heights. Now, as a time, I do love Sunday in the Park. But I feel like if I didn't pick In the Heights, I would be doing everybody a disservice. I do like In the Heights, don't get me wrong. And I really like the film, actually. For everyone, I should be picking In the Heights. So I'll pick In the Heights for everyone, you know? Evita versus Sweeney Todd. I'm picking Sweeney Todd. A New Argentina is a tune. I would be surprisingly good for you as a tune. Don't get me wrong. And I keep saying don't get me wrong, but that's what I'm saying. But Sweeney Todd, man. Attend that tale. I'm attending. I will be in attendance of that tale. So it wins. Gypsy versus The Producers. I have like 4 more, so I'm just going to quick fire. Gypsy versus The Producers. Gypsy wins. Kiss Me Kate versus Hello Dolly. Kiss Me Kate wins, although I did both see them in London last year, and they were both well and truly iconic. Imelda Staunton, you were amazing. Stephanie J. Block, you were also amazing. I just have to say. Avenue Q versus 42nd Street. I think I'm picking Avenue Q, which is probably kind of controversial. I think the showmanship of 42nd Street is amazing, but Avenue Q, it's Avenue Q. It's so fun. Like, it's crazy. Who doesn't love a rated R musical? And last, Funny Girl versus Hairspray. I'm picking Hairspray. So let's shave down these musicals, right? Into the Woods versus Spamalot. Into the Woods wins. Dreamgirls versus Falsettos. Falsettos wins. Sound of Music versus Company. Company wins. But again, not a fair matchup, I must say, because I do love Sound of Music. Lion King versus Once on This Island. I'm picking Once on This Island. Rent versus Little Shop. I'm picking Little Shop. Kill me, whatever's. In the Heights versus Sweeney. I'm picking Sweeney. I'm sorry, but Sondheim wins. That show is amazing. Gypsy versus Kiss Me Kate. I'm picking Kiss Me Kate. Actually, probably my favourite legit show of all time. And Avenue Q versus Hairspray. I think I'm picking Avenue Q. Into the Woods versus Falsettos. Not fair. All my favourite shows just coming together. But I think I like Falsettos more. Into the Woods is still in my top shows of all time. They're both in my top 10. But I think Falsettos is higher on that list. So I'm sorry, Stephen. I'm sorry. Company versus Once on This Island. Company's winning. Come on now. Little Shop versus Sweeney Todd. Sweeney Todd is winning. Kiss Me Kate versus Hairspray. Kiss Me Kate is winning. Although I feel like you already did that matchup, but I may have messed something up here. Which leaves those final 4 as Falsettos, Company, Sweeney, and Kiss Me Kate. So falsettos versus company, company wins because company trumps all. We can probably see where this is going. And I didn't actually realise company was on this bracket until I got to it. So sorry about that. And Kiss Me Kate versus Sweeney Todd, I'm giving it to Sweeney Todd because Sweeney Todd is great. And then Sweeney Todd versus Company. Company is winning, but let me tell you, Sweeney Todd is in my top 5 musicals also. So Company wins, which means that Company versus Miss Saigon, my number 1 and 2 musicals, are up against each other in the final. And I'm giving it to Company. Because of course I am. Of course I'm doing that. My near and dear friend Bobby has to win. He has to win. So yeah, there you go. There's my March Madness. I will show the March Madness sheet on the screen so you can screenshot it and fill it in with your opinions. Let me know what you thought down below. Do you have Company winning? Probably not. It's probably out in the first round for most of you, but that's fine. It's okay. But yes, this is my March Madness. Like I said, comment, like, subscribe, do all of those fun things. How are you spending your March Madness? Are you in a madness? Possibly and probably. But thank you so much for watching this video. Remember, if you have any more video suggestions, leave them down below in the comments. Follow me at all my social medias because I actually do message back. Fun fact. If I'm allowed, I do. And keep enjoying musicals as much as me. And I'll see you in the next one.